Welcome to another Secret Influence TV interview. Today I'm excited to be chatting with Greg Mallard, who's the film director of the film Masters and Vices. So, hi Greg, welcome to the show.
Hi Nick, long time no see.
Yes, it's been a few years now, so it's good to see you again, and look forward to chatting to you about your filmmaking. First of all, just to start, talking a bit about how you got into film. Perhaps you could share what inspired you to become a director and producer.
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in a town called Weybridge, which is in Borough of Elmbridge, which is in County of Surrey. For those of you that don't know, you've got London in the southwest, southeast of England, and then southwest of that, you've got Merton, which contains Wimbledon, and then further southwest of that, you've got Surrey. So that's where I was uh, born in, grew up there, pretty normal childhood. Loved watching film. Some of my best memories are in the cinema. If I really liked a film, I'd binge watch the behind the scenes documentary of it. But in terms of being interested in filmmaking and seeing filmmaking as a career, that's where it ended. I didn't really give it much serious thought. I never was exposed to filmmaking at school and whatnot, and I didn't think it would be a viable career for me. So I studied forensic science at Nottingham Trent University. The course itself was broken up into various modules. So you got your forensic chemistry, toxicology, ballistics and firearms. You've got the forensic process, so how it links to the English legal system, and digital skills, which of course includes forensic photography. So that was my first exposure to photography and video recording. Sorry, albeit with a DSLR, and the photos that I was asked to take were not for the purposes of entertainment. So the photos that we took were not supposed to be aesthetically pleasing to the human eye. That wasn't the purpose of it. But I did really enjoy using the camera, and we were asked to use the camera in manual mode, so not automatic, in order to get us used to actually setting the different settings, aperture, whatnot, changing the lenses. We all had to do that manually. And I'd book the camera out outside of lecture hours. So as long as there's a member of staff left in the lab, when you come back, you can book it for 2, 3 hours. And I'll take the Nikon D90 out around the Clifton campus and I'll be taking photos of landscapes, monuments, scenery, whatever I liked. And I was learning on my own time, in my own terms, how to use this camera. And that was like a creative outlet for me because I've always had that growing up. I've always been interested in art. I did an art GCSE, and yeah, I really love that. During the assessments, we used the Nikon D90 in the first part of the assessment. So you'd get taken to the crime scene house, which used to be the old caretaker's house in the Clifton campus. And they set up a mock crime scene, and you take photos of the blood spatter,
Oh,
the footprint marks, anything that you suspect might be used as a weapon, like a hammer or a screwdriver. And you can't edit the photos. You can't use any sort of filter. You have to use a flash pack very sparingly. So you're encouraged to almost always make use of natural light. And that comes in handy in the second part of the assessment at the city campus. They set up a mock trial for you.
right.
So you're essentially grilled by your course tutors and you're playing the role of this forensic photographer and you're asked, did you edit any of the photos? Did you use a flash pack? Did you place a filter on it? And the idea behind that is in an English legal case, the defense are going to want to undermine the credibility of the forensic photographer. They're going to want to scrutinize them to make sure that the photos they've taken are actually admissible as evidence. So you can't have any chinks in your armor, so to speak. So, yeah, I was exposed to photography. I did get, hundreds of hours of worth of experience using this DSLR. But in terms of how I was assessed, I was not taking photos to be for the purposes of entertainment. So there's that. But it did give me a good first exposure. I graduated Nottingham Trent. I came back to Weybridge. Couldn't find a job in forensic science. So I thought, what experience do I have? I'd done finance roles when I was at university. So I'd worked for the Alumni Fund. I worked in Capital One, not the radio station, but the credit card agency.
Right.
So I start working at a motor insurance broker, but I I don't find it creatively fulfilling. I need a creative outlet still. I start doing extra work and acting work on the weekends, and one thing leads to another. I reach various milestones, so I go from being a background extra to a featured extra. I then get a supporting role in a short film. I then get a lead role in a short film, and then I get a supporting role in a feature film. So I then go to a convention which was called Surviving Actors. This was in 2019. I don't know if it's still called that, but it was in the Radisson Blu Hotel in London.
Right.
And there's lots of events, there's lots of stands. You can perform monologues in front of casting directors. And one of the events was a meet and greet. So it's set up like a speed dating event, and you're sat opposite this casting director or director. And the idea is you hand them your CV, they give you hints and tips as to how you can improve it, any amendments you can make. The guy looking at my CV, I can't remember their name, they say, you know what? Yeah, I like your CV. You've got a few roles here and there. I wouldn't take you on because I think you're lacking experience, but you've worked with various different actors. You have experience on set. Why don't you get together with these other actors and put something out there, make content? And I was just sat there, I was nodding my head. I was like, okay, yeah. But in my mind, I was thinking, what a stupid piece of advice. I've come to you in the capacity of an actor. I want you to give me hints and tips as to how I can progress being an actor. You want me to step outside of my job role and be a producer. So yeah, I left that event just thinking, what a stupid piece of advice. But in retrospect, it was the best piece of advice that I'd had, and it was almost prophetic. So at the end of 2019, here is where I was acting wise.
Right.
I'd got my first show reel together, and that was a massive milestone because I'd been working up to that since early 2017. So I've got this amazing tool which I can use to showcase my skills as an actor, not just a CV, it's an audio visual tool that I can put out there to casting directors to say, here is me, here's uh, what roles I've played, and it's just a very powerful tool. So I was really, really excited going into 2020. So sometime around, I think it was early February 2020, I'd been shortlisted on one and I'd been definitively booked on two student short films, one of which I had the lead in, and I was going to be delivering the most amount of lines I'd ever given in any other film I'd been part of. So I was really excited. I got my show reel, got two roles in the bag. Let's go. This is just the start of 2020. And then COVID happens, as everyone knows, and student projects get delayed initially. And then as we move further into February, early March, the course tutor asks students to not shoot, full stop, stay in their COVID bubble. So those acting roles disappear completely. I'm in a very, I don't want to say precarious situation. Things are things. So where I am job wise, I put on furlough. I
Right.
don't know whether I'm going to be made redundant. It's quite an unstable time, and bearing in mind this is long before coronavirus basic awareness on production training was rolled out to
Sure.
students. So a lot of the film projects that are going on, they're either very high budget productions or they're like we're having a Zoom call now.
Sure.
They're short films
Right.
based in the office where employees are talking over Zoom. And those roles are in such high demand because a lot of the indie projects they've been put on the shelf. They're not filming during the first lockdown. So, yeah, it's a very unstable time. The acting roles have dried up, and they say boredom leads to
It's
creativity. So
true.
I'm
Yeah, it
thinking,
does.
what can I do? And I remember this guy's advice. I'm like, why don't I just write a script? So that's the metamorphosis, the journey
Okay.
as to how I went from being an actor to being a director, producer.
Well, that's yeah, it's fascinating. The journey has led to that point where you um decide to produce and direct Masters and Vices. Would you, for those who haven't seen it, would you like to describe Masters and Vices in your own words? What is
Yeah,
the
I mean,
sort of the concept behind it or the story?
yeah, sure. I mean, there's many ways you can look at the film. You can look at it through the lens of it's an 87-minute motivational video. You can look at it as a psychological drama film. That is set in contemporary British society, namely London. You can look at it as an addiction recovery story. It's a fictional story. So yeah, many different lenses. I don't try and push a specific
Cool.
message necessarily, although Stan does narrate his struggle. But I very much let the viewer make their own decisions as to how they view the character.
And what's inspired the story? Where did you get the ideas from?
So I'll start back at university
Sure.
again. So
Yeah.
at university, I'd get up about, I don't know, 6, 7 a.m. in the morning.
Okay.
Sometimes if I had lectures at 9 a.m. But bearing in mind, there were days where I'd just have a 2 hour lecture on
Sure.
ballistics from midday to 2 p.m. And then the rest of the day was free for me to do whatever I wanted. I could go to the gym, I could, revise, whatever. I could sleep in late. When I went into full-time work, that meant that I had to wake up, 4:30 a.m., 5 a.m. in the morning. It's very different. I believe Gen Z call it adulting.
All right. Not heard that.
I think I've come across that term where yeah,
Sure.
where you have to step into the role of an adult. So basically I had to do things that I wasn't necessarily enthusiastic
Sure.
about, namely getting up very early in the morning, 4:30 a.m. to go to work. And it was a big transition from university. So I would look for motivation. And I
Right.
think I must have probably typed in something along the lines of get motivated or wake up early on YouTube. Long story short, I would get introduced into the world of self-improvement, motivational videos. So I was watching videos on David Goggins, him delivering speeches, Les Brown, Jocko Willink, who else? The late Greg Plitt. And I'd watch these 1 hour long compilation videos of motivational speeches. You'd have sound bites from Will Smith in there, you'd have Denzel Washington
Sure.
um, speaking to students at a graduation ceremony. So yeah, actors, motivational speakers, they'd be giving, generic advice.
Right.
So I've always noticed, as far as I'm aware, they'd have various talking points. So various calls to action. So they'd say stuff like, get out the house, exercise, stop looking at social media,
Sure.
stop eating junk food, stop hanging around negative people. If a situation or a job doesn't fulfill you, move on. Quit toxic friends, quit toxic relationships. And a lot of these motivational speakers, and I won't name the specific
Sure.
ones,
Yeah.
they their speeches, their talks were very much geared towards young men
Right.
and helping them overcome the struggles that they have, whether it's depression or negative uh, image about their own
Sure.
bodies and what have you. So, what I found very interesting and just bizarre, frankly, were again, to the best of
Mm.
my knowledge, can only speak on behalf of
Sure. Of
myself and what
course.
I've heard. During these 1 hour long compilation videos of various motivational speakers, I never heard anyone saying, stop watching porn, stop wanking. I never heard that. And it was very odd to me. It was perplexing that you talk about giving up all these vices, but somehow porn addiction is not in the picture. So there was a vacuum that was created.
An
There
opportunity.
was a big elephant in the room.
Oh,
So that's the first reason why I
right.
decided to produce this film. And I've even put it in my director's statement, said, when you search the top addictions of the 21st
Sure.
century, porn addiction ranks in the top 15, but it's not as widely documented in feature film. There's only a handful of films that I've watched growing up that
Sure.
document porn addiction,
Interesting.
put a spotlight on porn addiction. At school, we had a drugs awareness day, alcohol awareness day, smoking awareness day, knife crime
Yeah. Of
awareness
course.
day, but there wasn't a porn addiction
Sure.
awareness day. The most that school ever came close to raising awareness of that was during sex education. One of my teachers said something along the lines of, what you see in porn is not a real depiction of sex.
Yeah.
Words to that effect, I'm paraphrasing. That was it. I don't know how, the education system is now, but back when I was in school, people just weren't talking about it. They weren't
Sure.
raising awareness of it the
Yeah.
same way, they were talking about smoking or drinking. So there was a vacuum. And also, because I was looking at these self-improvement videos,
Right.
I stumbled across a lot of individual YouTubers that were speaking to camera about how they suffered from porn addiction, their journey in overcoming porn addiction, how they relapse, the trial and error that they experience. And I thought, here is a very niche audience that I can market my film to.
Right.
So yeah, those are the
Mm.
reasons why I decided to center the film around
Okay.
porn
Yeah.
addiction, if that makes
No, it's
sense.
interesting. Yeah, I think there's definitely key themes that come out within your play. Sorry, in your film, sorry, in your filming. There's key themes that come out in that. And I was wondering when you could, whether you could just talk us through the process of developing the screenplay, because I know writers can have different ways of doing it. Some, write every day. Some, write in long chunks, leave it a few days and go back and review it, then write some more. Did you have a sort of way you approached the writing the script?
Yeah, so I wrote the first draft during the first national UK lockdown.
Right.
It took me just a couple of months to do that. I think I started in mid to late May, which in terms of script writing
Sure.
timeline, that is very short. I do realize that that is very short. But bearing in mind, it's lockdown. I had nothing else to do.
Sure. A lot of time.
I wasn't working. I was getting furloughed, so I was just in the four corners of my own home, and I was writing this script. So yeah, it took me a couple of months to write it, the first draft that is, and in all honesty, 90% of what you see in the first draft remains the same in the final
Interesting. I was going to
draft.
ask you, did it often, because to have one original idea that can evolve and change as you write it. So, but you're saying you kept true to that original sort of concept in the first draft.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking, although I don't watch that many short films, but I thought because I was thinking of the the individual's advice that I heard from the convention, make your own content, and I thought I like to be emotionally invested into
Sure.
characters. I like to see a beginning, middle, and an end. I want a character arc that is fleshed out, and I was struggling to m make a script that I would be emotionally invested in
Sure. Right.
for a short film. So I
Sure.
had to make it a feature. I really wanted to flesh out the character of what would become Stan. So that's why I made it a feature. And yeah, I did have a lot of ideas, before I did put pen to paper about what the genre would be. So I did juggle with that a lot as well. But I finally decided to um, make it a
Sure.
psychological drama film.
Yeah, and like you said, that the characters are important, to have, so the people watching the film will connect to the characters, and Stan was definitely the main character. I think that worked really, really well, as that person that um led through the story of the film told. Um, I don't know. We could just talk a bit about the filmmaking process, your shooting style. Um, any did you have a particular shooting style that you used or in mind? I know, location is important, and how did you approach, again, that thing can involve, from your original concept. Did you have a um, yeah, what sort of shooting style wise? Do you have a particular style you used with telling the story?
Yeah, so I use majority of the shots are locked off.
Right.
So in layman's terms, that's a static shot.
Okay.
So as you're seeing me now, this is static. The camera isn't panning
Sure.
across. So you have a static shot. Normally, you've got a camera mounted on a tripod,
Okay.
so it's not handheld, basically. So there's no shaky cam. I don't think we used any Dutch angles, which is where the lens is kind of tilted like that.
Sure.
Um, Very rarely we'd use the exotic shots like the focus pull. I think we used a focus pull 4 to 5 times, two of which
Right.
was to pull focus from Stan to
Okay.
the alarm clock
Sure. I
and
remember
vice
that.
versa. And
Yeah.
that was to, signal to the audience that, time is of the
Sure.
essence,
Yeah.
basically. So that the first it's one of the, I think the first sequence, yeah, the first sequence where Stan's alarm clock goes off. You've got that focus pull from Stan's head to the alarm clock.
Sure.
Um, so yeah, it's almost highlighting a specific object. It's placing emphatic stress on it, metaphorically speaking, that hey, it's
That cue.
time to wake up. The alarm's going
Sure.
off. So it coincides with
Right.
the sound of the alarm clock. But in all honesty, yeah, I mean, a lot of the content that I put out there before
Right.
Masters and Vices, like I'd made a YouTube tutorial video
Okay.
for a technical issue, and again, I just utilized locked off shots. I
Sure.
don't use that many panning shots, to be honest. But that also comes with the territory of indie filmmaking.
Of
You know,
course.
we're short on time and resources and whatnot,
Sure.
and the most reliable way of getting a good shot, in my opinion, is the locked off shot.
Right.
It's much easier to control the variables and what have you.
Okay. Um, just question on the casting process, because before you did this Masters and Vices film, you've done some other projects. Did you look to use people you worked with, or or studied with, before? Or did you? How did you approach the casting?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So what I would say is, yes, there are certain actors that I have worked with
Right.
previously. In terms of how I approach the casting is, you've got two actors. One of them is really talented
Sure.
and they've got a lot of credits under their belt, etc. Um, but they're unresponsive or they don't send a self-tape.
Right.
And then you've got actor B, who's maybe not that talented in inverted commas or air quotes, as the Americans would say.
Sure.
However you want to interpret talented. Okay, let's just say they don't fit the look of the specific role down to the, last letter,
Sure.
but they're reliable,
Right.
but they've sent a self-tape.
Sure.
They're disciplined, they're
Okay.
committed. I would always take actor B over
Right.
actor A,
Okay.
because I'm looking for someone that can just show up. And I think it's Woody Allen. It said 80% of success is showing up. You've got to show up.
Yes, I
So
think
I
that.
don't care how quote unquote talented you are. But if you're not going to show up to set, if you're not going to send a self-tape where I can see how you deliver your lines to
Sure, of
camera,
course.
then I'm not going to take you on. But in terms of the casting process, I'd cast, far and wide. I'd use
Right.
various different platforms, and if I shortlist someone, I'd then ask them to send over a self-tape, just
Right.
so I can see how they deliver their lines to camera, how they interpret the actual character.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, if I think that they're suitable for the role, then I'd ask them to confirm their availability for a shoot. And if I don't think someone's suitable for a role, I will always bear them in mind for another role.
Right.
So I'd keep them on this roster, and
Okay.
I'd say, well, although we don't feel that you're suitable for this role, we've gone for someone else. Would you be open to playing this other character? Because that's what's
Mm.
happened with me when I've
Sure.
applied for certain roles. The producers come back and said, Greg, I don't think you're a right fit for this, but we'd like to cast you for this. I think you're better suited for this. So that's how I've got a few of my roles
That's
is
smart. Yeah.
not for the role that I've specifically applied to, but for a role that the producer
Sure.
thinks I'm suitable for.
Because it's like it's kind of networking, that by having the contacts, you might not like, it's like might be right for a particular role, but having met them networked, it kept in mind for another role. Um, just looking at just looking at if you're looking back, is there anything I guess we all look to learn from our experiences. Maybe we do something different next time. Looking back, is there anything you'd do next time? Is there anything you've learned that you could perhaps change the way you approach a project next time?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, you always ideally want to use the exact same camera
Right.
throughout the film.
Sure.
Now, that wasn't always feasible because
Okay.
the cameraman's ill, last minute you got to find a replacement, they don't have the same camera. Okay. But more importantly, you want to be using the exact same frame rate and
Okay.
resolution.
Interesting.
So, I mean, you asked me what I'd do differently. I would definitely try to use the same camera,
Right. Okay.
because if you don't use the same camera, it makes color grading much harder to
Okay.
do. Um, I would, in terms of my casting, I would cast wider. So
Okay.
what would happen is you'd put out a casting notice. You'd create a listing on a
Sure.
site, let's just say. So, for example, I don't know. I've got IMDb Pro, so I put out a listing there, and you'd get anywhere from 200 to
Wow.
250 applicants. And of those 250 applicants, half of them aren't eligible for the role because I'm looking to cast someone that's either based in London or the
Sure.
surrounding areas.
Practical.
I can barely get people from London that live in London to show up on set in a location in London. So someone's living in
Yeah, of
Glasgow, or
course.
some people even applied outside of the UK.
No,
It's not practical, it's not
no,
feasible,
no,
it's
of
actually
course.
unfair to them because
Sure.
there's train delays, strikes, cancellations, whatnot. So logistically, it's not going to
Makes
happen.
sense.
So
Yeah.
yeah, half of the people that apply, you know, they're not living
No,
within that
sure.
catchment area, however you want to term it. They don't live close to the location. And then you're left with the remaining
Sure.
half. And then I always ask people, do you have any food allergies we need to be made aware of?
All right.
That's important because if you've got a peanut allergy, I need to let all the crew know. I
Sure.
need to let the cast know. If you get an anaphylactic
Of course.
reaction. So that's a life and death,
Right. Health and safety.
scenario. I then also ask, especially for the corporate roles, do you have access to smart business attire?
Right.
Yes or
Sure.
no? And if you don't, I can look to provide it for you, but I need to know that that's a supply and demand issue.
Of
I've got
course.
lots of ties and spare blazers I can provide. And yeah, so I ask
Mm.
questions like that, and I say also, are you available on the date?
Very important.
Now, I do ask them to state these
Sure.
facts in their application.
Right.
And again, of the half of the applicants that are
Sure.
remaining, from the other half that are not within, a commutable distance, let's say, majority of them don't answer those questions. So they're going to lots of
Yeah. Of
inconsequential things like,
course.
"Hello, I'm so and so. I've
Yeah.
wanted to act from a very
Sure.
young age." Like, yeah, they're great. You and the
Not,
whole,
not
oh, yeah,
needed. No.
yeah. It's not relevant to the
No.
shoot.
Of course.
I'm this ethnic background. I speak this many
Yeah.
languages. Yeah, great. Yeah, but do you have any food allergies?
Of
I need
course.
I need to know. I need to
Yeah. It's a
let
checklist
the
of
location
yeah
staff know.
logistics.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm just like anything but actually answering the questions.
Frustrating.
So going back to what I do
Mm.
differently
Sure.
right from the get-go, and I did learn this,
Right.
as I did shoot more and more, is casting a wider net.
Casting a wide net.
So I would always be surprised when I was acting. Is like, why is this producer listing the same job over and over again? Is
Now you
because
know.
the people that
Sure.
apply, they're not answering the application
Yeah.
questions. And
Sure.
especially if an actor drops out last minute,
Recover
if
yourself.
I'm on the train to Waterloo, I've got to make a snap decision
Sure.
who I'm going to cast.
Yeah.
I'm looking at your application. You're not saying if you have any food allergies. You're not saying if you have
Mm.
smart business attire versus someone else that is answering
Yeah.
all the questions. I'm going to go with that other person. I'm
Makes
not going to
sense.
waste time
No.
asking you the questions that I've asked you to answer. Um,
No, of
so,
course.
so yeah.
No, that's that. I mean, that makes sense. I think it's a project, whether and any project you got to be, you got budget and you got time restrictions, and you got to obviously be organized and you got to be efficient, and it's like any project, it's project management. So I can it resonates very much with me what you say. Um, Greg, so we're coming towards the end of our time for the interview. So just to wrap up, if someone watching this, wants to follow you or find out a bit more about things you're involved in or the film Master Devices, where's the best place to find out or to follow you? What do you want to share a best channel?
Yeah, yeah, sure. So my YouTube channel's at Gregory_Mallard, and you can watch the final cut of Masters and Vices on there. My Instagram handle's the same at Gregory_Mallard. I post, motivational quotes and updates regarding the film on there. So yeah, feel free to follow my acting/producing life on there, and you can watch the film and the trailers on my YouTube channel.
Great. And just finally, do you want to share if you want to about anything else you're working on or what's happening next?
Yeah,
Um,
so I'm currently in the film festival circuit for Masters and Vices, which will be
okay,
spilling over to next year. I may uh, be producing a behind the scenes documentary
okay,
highlighting how I went about producing Masters and Vices, and a lot of the things that we did to prepare behind the scenes before
Sure.
shooting. So I don't know when that's going to be, if it's going to happen. So
No
that's up
worry.
in the air. If I do make a sequel to Masters and Vices, I think I'd probably make a there'd be a time jump
Sure, of course.
from where we ended the last film. So we'll pick it up with a time jump, and I think I'd want to make a much grittier personal growth
Okay.
journey
Sure. I love
type
it.
film.
Well, I guess it's watch this space. And if you
Yeah,
do,
watch this space. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
have to get you back on the show maybe later with your next project, whether it's a follow-on from Master Devices or something else. So yes, do subscribe to Influence TV for notified of other upcoming interviews. Got some more film directors, some authors, and other people to share their story and what they do in their role in influencing. So Greg, great. Thanks for your time today and for sharing the work on this project and your influences and the journey to get to the point where you've produced this film.